Recently, we've been talking about the threat of digital ID, how the socialist government here in the United Kingdom announced recently that they were going to introduce a mandatory digital ID card. And that was effectively going to be the end of freedom in the United Kingdom because it was going to allow the government to monitor and control every aspect of life in this country. It's also been dabbled with and is being dabbled with across the world. Various governments are looking at this. So if you haven't seen those videos, I'll link them down below. This is what they look like. And we're going to talk about this in this video because, as most will have seen, there's been an update on this and it's good news. Largely due to the efforts of Rupert Lowe, the increasingly impressive Rupert Lowe, who at times seems to be a one-man band against all of this encroaching socialism and authoritarianism. He seems to stand for all the right things. He rallied politicians to oppose this, and also due to a general public backlash, the United Kingdom government has done a U-turn here and shelved plans to make digital ID mandatory in the UK. This is obviously good news, and it's worth a little bit of a celebration. However, remember that Keir Starmer and almost all of the current Labour government are members of the Fabians Society. We spoke about this as well in a recent video. The whole idea behind the Fabian Society is to impose socialism upon nations gradually. The Fabian Society, which is home to the most radical leftists around, aims to advance itself via gradualist efforts in democracies, rather than by revolutionary overthrow. This is their entire philosophy. It's named after the Roman Emperor Fabian, who was famous for winning battles through persistence, harassment, and wearing the enemy down by attrition, rather than by pitched battles. Their logo is a tortoise because it represents the group's predilection for a slow, imperceptible transition to socialism, while its coat of arms, a wolf in sheep's clothing, represented its preferred methodology for achieving its goal. The wolf in sheep's clothing symbolism was later abandoned due to its obvious negative connotations. The end goal of Fabianism, as represented in this stained glass window commissioned by George Bernard Shaw, is to eventually remold the whole world so that everyone comes to bow and kneel before the altar of socialism and the perceived wisdom of the Fabian Society. Again, the vast majority of people in the current Labour British government are Fabians, and Keir Starmer himself, the Prime Minister, is a member of the Fabian Society. So, although they've done a U-turn on making digital ID mandatory, and that can be celebrated as a small little victory, don't be surprised if they now wage a campaign of slow, persistent harassment against the British people on this and try to wear us down gradually through attrition, because this is their modus operandi. This is how they work. This is how they operate. Don't be surprised if they increasingly make life more difficult without a digital ID. Remember with the COVID passport and with vaccines, they said, you don't have to get the vaccine and the COVID passport. It's not mandatory, but if you don't, you won't be able to travel or eat out in restaurants or go here or do this. And by excluding non-participants from society, eventually many people just caved on this and said, you know what? I'll just do it. I'll take the vaccine. I'll take the passport. I'll download the app, whatever it is, because I don't want to be excluded from society and I don't want to miss out on all of these things. It's making life too uncomfortable and I feel like I'm missing out on too much. So I'll do whatever you want me to do. So don't be surprised if that's what happens here, and that's how they try to introduce it here, the digital ID, slowly and gradually through a campaign of attrition and harassment. Digital ID is not mandatory. You don't have to get this, but life is just going to be more difficult. You'll be excluded increasingly from certain things. You won't be able to go here or do that. And just as many of us held the line during COVID and still refused to bow to the pressure no matter what they did to us, this same fortitude will likely be required again to resist digital ID in the years ahead. There's actually a strong connection here between COVID passports and what happened back there and digital ID. Labour MP Rachel Maskell, who again is a member of the Fabian Society, and was at a Labour conference around the time that mandatory digital ID was being announced and the backlash began. She said at this conference, I've been surprised at the opposition to digital ID cards, especially on civil liberties grounds. I thought we'd moved on from all of that. After COVID, I thought people were more willing to accept more government intervention into their lives. Many people have been saying this, that COVID was a deliberate effort to condition people to authoritarianism. It was a deliberate testing of the waters to see how ready people were to accepting authoritarian government. And back then, of course, many people were willing to go along with whatever the government says. And it seems that what's happened is because so many people were willing to be controlled back then, the Fabians in government thought, well, now we can go ahead with mandatory digital ID and there will be little to no resistance because they've been conditioned to this through COVID. And it seems to me they're surprised that so many people still maintain a spirit of freedom and liberty. So what they're thinking is, let's just back it up a little bit and let's move more slowly on this. But I still have no doubt that they've not given up on the end goal of digital ID because, of course, it is central to their socialist dream that one day we will no longer live in freedom, but will all become a part of their collectivist machine where the government can track and monitor and control every aspect of our lives through AI and technology, as we were talking about a few videos back. In fact, just one more quote that helps us understand the mindset of our current government and what we're dealing with here. Shabana Mahmood, the current UK Home Secretary, and yes, another Fabian, said, "When I was in justice, my ultimate vision for that part of the criminal justice system was to achieve by AI and technology what Jeremy Bentham tried to do with his panopticon. That is, the eyes of the state can be on you at all times." Is there a more ominous statement than that? A more harrowing, more haunting statement that they want the eyes of the state to be on us at all times. This is the panopticon, and it was a plan for a perfect prison. The idea is that the cells would be arranged around a central tower, allowing the guards to watch all the inmates from a centralized location at all times. Apparently, the psychological effects were ultimately considered too cruel and it was never built. But here we have a Fabian member of the UK government saying this is what she would like to build here in the UK. A system where the eyes of the state are on citizens at all times from a centralized location using AI and technology. So that gives insight into what we're dealing with. I say all of this because it's obviously good news that they've been pushed back a little bit, but we have to be aware of how much the Fabian Society is an enemy of the people, the British people, and an enemy of freedom and liberty in this nation as a whole. They will try to impose collectivism upon us through things like digital ID and AI and technology, and we must not give an inch on this because they will try to wear us down through harassment and attrition. We must be prepared to be uncomfortable and refuse to bow to this in any way whatsoever, just as we did during COVID. They could already actually be trying to bring this in through the back door by the social media ban on under 16s. You've probably seen that as well. Eventually controlling access to the internet entirely for everyone through digital ID. That could be how they're trying to go about this. But yeah, a small battle's been won here, but I think the war is far from over. So let us not be the generation that gives away the freedom that our ancestors fought so hard to protect and hand down to us over so many centuries. Because if we give it away, then it's always much more difficult and costly to win it back again further down the line. So let's stay vigilant and let's understand that we can win. We can win if we pursue all of the right things: good, righteousness, justice, freedom, all of these things. Tyrants never win long term. So let's take a hold of that and understand that if we do the right things, if we stand for the right things, we can win and we will win against authoritarian tyrants.